Bad Company are an English rock supergroup founded in 1973 by two former Free band members singer Paul Rodgers and drummer Simon Kirke as well as Mott the Hoople guitarist Mick and King Crimson bassist Boz Burrell. Peter Grant, who managed British rock band Led Zeppelin, agreed to manage the band. Bad Company enjoyed great success throughout the 1970s. Many of their singles, such as Bad Company, Can't Get Enough, Good Lovin' Gone Bad, and Feel Like Makin Love, remain popular with rockers of both the past and present, and their hits remain staples of classic rock radio. History: Original Paul Rodgers era. There was a rumor that singer Paul Rodgers was so enamored with the Jeff Bridges film Bad Company that he chose to name his band after it, but Rodgers, in an interview with Spinner.com, explained that the idea came from a book of Victorian morals that showed a picture of an innocent kid looking up at an unsavory character leaning against a lamppost. The caption read, "Beware of Bad Company." Bad Company consisted of four seasoned musicians, two former members of Free, singer Paul Rodgers and drummer Simon Kirke. Former Mott the Hoople guitarist Mick, and ex-King Crimson bassist Boz Burrell. The band signed to Swan Song Records, Atlantic Records in North America, and with Island Records in other countries. Atlantic Warner Music would later acquire the non-North American rights to the band's catalog. The 1974 debut album Bad Company was an international hit, eventually going platinum. The album peaked at No. 1 on Billboard's Pop Albums chart and included two singles that reached the top 20, Can't Get Enough at No. 5 in 1974 and Movin' On at No. 19 in early 1975. In 1975 their second album, Straight Shooter, reached No. 3 on Billboard's Pop Albums chart and also went platinum. The album also spawned two hit singles, Good Lovin' Gone Bad at No. 36 and the slower Feel Like Makin Love at No. 10. Run with the Pack was Bad Company's third platinum-certified album, reaching No. 5 on the Billboard chart and featured the cover song Young Blood, which peaked at No. 20 on the pop charts. Bad Company scheduled a British tour with a band of former Free member Paul Backstreet Crawler, to support Bad Company's 1976 album Run with the Pack as well as a new album by Backstreet Crawler. This double headline tour was scheduled to commence on April 25, 1976 but was halted due to Xoff's death on March 19, 1976. 1977's Burnin Sky fed the poorest of their first four records. The album's title song, Burnin Sky, only reached No. 78 on the pop charts. 1979's Desolation Angels did better than its predecessor, giving the band their latest top 5 platinum-selling album. Desolation Angels also embellished the group's sound with synthesizers and strings. The album reached No. 3 on the Billboard charts and again had two charting singles, Rock 'n' Roll Fantasy at No. 13 and Gone 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 at No. 56. By the end of the 1970s, however, the band grew increasingly disenchanted with playing large stadiums. In addition, Peter Grant lost interest in the group and management in general after Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham died on September 25, 1980. In the words of Simon Kirke, Peter was definitely the glue which held us all together and in his absence we came apart. A 3-year hiatus from the studio ended with the release of Rough Diamonds in 1982. This would be the sixth and final LP in the group's original incarnation until 4 new songs were recorded in 1998. The album was the worst-selling Bad Company album of those that had Paul Rodgers as the front man. The album peaked at No. 26 and featured Electric Land, that reached No. 2 on the newly created Hot Mainstream Rock Tracks chart. After the release of Rough Diamonds, Bad Company disbanded. Mick said, "Paul wanted a break and truthfully we all needed to stop. Bad Company had become bigger than us all and to continue would have destroyed someone or something. From a business standpoint, it was the wrong thing to do, but Paul's instinct was absolutely right." Despite being famous for their live shows packing the largest stadiums for almost a decade, Bad Company did not release an official live album of performances from this time period until the 2006 album Live in Albuquerque 1976. The recordings were made by Mick, who regularly taped the group's shows and used the tapes to critique the band's performances. Bootlegs of Bad Company's live performances from this period were also available, including Bob Burrell Live in Japan, and Shooting Star Live at the LA Forum. The Brian Howe Era. In 1985, Mick Ralphs and Simon Kirke, having just worked together the previous year on Ralph's solo album Take This, decided to re-team for a new project. But in 1986, their label, Atlantic Records, insisted they resume the Bad Company name. Unfortunately, Paul Rodgers was already engaged with a new supergroup called The Firm. With Rodgers gone, the remaining two members partnered with ex-Ted Nugent vocalist Brian Howe as the new lead singer. In addition, they hired Steve Price as the new bass player and Greg Chert on keyboards. Howe's vocal style brought more of a pop-rock sound to the band, which Atlantic Records, looking to bring the band back up to arena status, was looking for after declining turnouts to previous live performances and the dismal sales of Rough Diamonds. The band hired foreigner producer Keith Olsen to produce the new lineup's initial album, 1986's Fame and Fortune. Burrell agreed to rejoin the band and was name-checked on the Fame and Fortune album, even though he didn't play on it. But just before the supporting tour, he left once again. Among the subsequent projects Burrell was involved with was a 9-piece jazz outfit called the Tam White Band. Reflecting the musical style of the mid-80s, Fame and Fortune was laden with keyboards, unlike previous Bad Company albums, but was only modestly successful. The single This Love managed to reach No. 85 on the singles charts but was not the success the band hoped for. But things were about to change. In 1987, Chert was dropped from the lineup as the group decided not to play up the keyboards in their sound as much. They toured that year supporting Deep Purple. For the next Howe Era album, 1988's Dangerous Age, the band replaced Olsen with producer Terry Thomas, who got rid of most of the keyboards and returned the band to a guitar-driven sound. Thomas also added small amounts of keyboards as well as rhythm guitars and backing vocals and wrote most of the songs with the band. Dangerous Age fared better than its predecessor, spawning several MTV videos and the AOR hits No Smoke Without a Fire, One Night, and Shake It Up. The album went gold and hit the top 60. For the Dangerous Age tour, the band was augmented by Larry Oakes, who had also played with Foreigner. Price and Oakes both left at the conclusion of the tour. The band's next album, Holy Water, written mostly by Brian Howe and Terry Thomas, was released in June 1990. The album, also produced by Thomas, was enormously successful both critically and commercially, attaining top 40 and platinum status by selling more than 1 million copies. Holy Water was the band's first album on the Atlantic subsidiary Atco. The album spun off the singles, If You Needed Somebody, the title track Holy Water, and Walk Through Fire. Holy Water also hit No. 1 for 2 weeks on the AOR charts with If You Needed Somebody reaching No. 2. The album received significant radio airplay and spawned several video hits. Felix Krish played bass on the CD while Paul Cullen was recruited for live shows. Mick Ralphs, who was taking care of personal and family matters, sat out for most of the Holy Water tour, although he did perform on the album. Beginning in June 1990, Ralphs was replaced on the road and in the videos by ex-Crawler guitarist Jeff Whitehorn. Ralphs returned later on during the tour and Whitehorn went on to join Procol Harum in December 1991 where he still plays to this day. Also joining at this time was ex-ASAP guitarist Dave Bucket Colwell as second guitarist. Their subsequent tour, supported by Damn Yankees, was heralded as one of the top 5 grossing tours of 1991 during a year which saw many other rock acts facing a downturn in concert attendance brought on by rising ticket prices and economic recession. It was widely rumored at the start of the 90s that Howe and other members of the band, which he helped revive 4 years earlier, had been bickering over financial matters. Howe had been rumored to be leaving the band in 1990 and ex-Kansas singer Steve Walsh was to take over. Easier said than done. Atlantic Records did not agree, given their renewed success and Howe's extraordinary vocal ability, and he was convinced to stay on. The final studio album of the Howe Era, 1992's Here Comes Trouble, featured the top 40 hit, How About That, and This Could Be the One. The album went gold. Before touring in support of Here Comes Trouble, the band added ex-Foreigner, Roxy Music and Small Faces bassist Rick Wills, and Colwell, a proto-copyright GAR copywriter Ralphs, was now a full-time member. The band recorded a live album, What You Hear Is What You Get, the best of Bad Company on the Here Comes Trouble tour. The critically acclaimed album, released in November 1993, featured live versions of hits from both the Rodgers and Howe eras of the band. Howe left the band in 1994. Regarding his departure from the band, Howe stated, "Leaving Bad Company was not a difficult decision. It had got to the point where nobody was contributing anything to songwriting and quite frankly, the band was getting very sloppy live. I quite simply, along with Terry Thomas, got tired of doing all the work and then getting nothing but resentment for it from Mick and Simon." The Robert Hart Era. After Howe's departure, the remaining foursome hired ex-Distance vocalist Robert Hart to take over lead vocal duties. Unlike Howe, Hart was closer in voice and an imitator of Rodgers. Hart became very popular with both the band and public alike, especially in the US and Canada. In July 1994 a contract was drawn up by Alliance Artists and Legend Management and signed by the then Bad Company lineup, Mick Ralphs, Simon Kirke, Hart, Dave Colwell and Rick Wills, giving Hart the right to perform, write and record songs and albums and receive royalty payments as a full Bad Company member. With Hart, who bore an uncanny vocal similarity to Paul Rodgers, the new lineup released Company of Strangers in June 1995, which came out on East West Records and peaked at No. 159 on the album charts. It produced the AOR hit Down and Dirty. The band then undertook a lengthy promotional tour of the US with Bon Jovi. Stories Told and Untold was released in October 1996 and bombed commercially. Stories contained re-recordings of 7 of Bad Company's biggest hits, and 7 new songs. Many of these were recorded in Nashville and feature guest appearances by country stars such as Vince Gill. For their 1996 tour, the Bad Company lineup was Kirke, Hart, Rick Wills and Dave "Bucket" Colwell. Ralph sat out this tour due to health issues. The return of Paul Rodgers Era. On December 4, 1995, the 4 original members of Bad Company had come together for the first time in 13 years to attend the funeral of their former manager, Peter Grant. This would be a precursor of things to come. In 1998, Rodgers and Kirke were discussing release of an extensive compilation album with a biography and pictures for the fans. Rodgers decided the album should include 4 new songs. He finally reunited with the other 3 original members in the studio to record these 4 new tracks. The reunion was short-lived, but it produced a top 20 AOR hit with Hey Hey. The second new song Hammer of Love peaked at No. 23. The new tracks appeared on the compilation album called The Original Bad Company Anthology, released in March 1999, which only charted at No. 189. Many fans were displeased with the track listing, which left off many favorites, although a number of rare tracks did appear. With David Lee Roth as the opening act, the reunited original foursome went out in the spring and summer of 1999 for a 32-date reunion tour in the U.S., which began on May 15, 1999 at Ruth Eckerd Hall in Tampa, Florida. The tour included a pay-per-view concert on May 21 at Hard Rock Live in Orlando and ended on August 8 at the Greek Theatre in Los Angeles. The shows drew well, but after that, Ralphs announced he was retiring from live performing and Burrell left again as well, bringing the reunion to an end. The Greek Theatre concert turned out to be the last show of the original 4 members. In the 2014 Bad Company 40th Anniversary DVD documentary, Kirke elaborates further on the end of the 1999 reunion, stating that he and Rodgers did not wish to continue on since he and Rodgers were sober and the other 2 were not. Paul Rodgers again rejoined Kirke in 2001 for a tour that kicked off in the US and included co-headlining dates with Styx and Billy Squier as special guest. Wills and Colwell took over for the departed Ralphs and Burrell. The tour did decent business, then moved to the UK. The band secured some dates on the west coast of the US to record a new live album and DVD, Merchants of Cool, recorded by Chris Mickle, Bud Martin and Justin Peacock, and which featured the song Joe Fabulous, which hit No. 1 on radio and the top 20 on mainstream rock radio in the US in its debut week. The Merchants of Cool promotional tour in 2002 once again featured Kirke and Rodgers as the only original members left. Colwell again took lead guitar and Jazz Lockery, who had played live and recorded with Paul Rodgers from 1995 on, was on bass. Guest performers at the shows included former Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash and Neil Schon of Journey fame. After the 2002 tour, Bad Company went inactive once again as Rodgers returned to his solo career. Recent events: in 2005 a DVD called Inside Bad Company 1974–1982 was released that reviews Bad Company on stage, on film and on record. It also interviews Simon Kirke and has some live recordings from the 1970s and 1980s. This was an unauthorized release. In 2005 Paul Rodgers began touring and playing Bad Company songs with Queen. It was stated, including on Brian May's own website, that Rodgers would be featured with Queen as Queen plus Paul Rodgers, not replacing the late Freddie Mercury. The CD and DVD of their collaboration was released in 2005 called Return of the Champions with songs by Queen, Bad Company and Free. On April 28, 2006 they released a live DVD from their show in Tokyo called Super Live in Japan. There are many bootlegs from nearly every show of the 2005 and 2006 tours in audio, as well as a few in video form. In 2006 a limited edition CD of 24 Karat Gold was released of the first Bad Company album. After taking over a year to find the original master tapes, the analog masters were put through a proprietary analog-to-digital converter that remastered the songs for the best possible sound. Boz Burrell died of a heart attack on September 21, 2006, aged 60, at his home in Spain. On May 6, 2007 Robert Hart, Dave Bucket Colwell and Jazz Lockery performed in a small pub in Surbiton for the Macmillan Cancer Trust. Performing as Rock and Roll Fantasy, they offered a show of Bad Company songs for an audience of just a few hundred. They were joined by Mick Ralphs. Chris Greiner was the drummer. In 2008 Mick Ralphs' Bad Company toured in the following formation: Robert Hart, Mick Ralphs, Dave Bucket Colwell, Jazz Lockery, Gary Harry James. On July 2, 2008 it was announced that the original remaining lineup of Bad Company would do a one-off gig at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida on August 8, 2008. For this show, the surviving three were joined by Howard Lees and bassist Lynn Sorensen. According to Paul Rodgers, they did this gig to protect the legacy they have built and cement the rights to the trademark Bad Company for touring. The live performance was released on Blu-ray, DVD, and CD on February 9, 2010 and the tracks include 17 Bad Company hits. Rodgers dedicated Gone, Gone, Gone to original bassist Boz Burrell, who died in 2006. Paul Rodgers, Mick Ralphs and Simon Kirke performed together again during the summer of 2009 playing 10 shows throughout the United States. The band then played shows in the UK during April 2010 before embarking on tours through North America and Japan that lasted from July to October. Mick Ralphs was forced to pull out of the Japan dates, as he was undergoing hip replacement surgery. Lees handled lead guitar for the Japanese tour. After this, Rodgers had said that at the moment there will be no further plans for Bad Company, explaining that he was working on solo material. However, he hadn't ruled out more activities from the band. Speaking to the Times Record, he said, "We aren't saying never we never want to say never. We aren't putting Bad Company to bed, as they say, but the band definitely is something that will be placed onto the back burner." In March 2011 a budget live release extended versions was issued, taken from the band's UK tour in 2010. The CD debuted at No. 139 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums chart and featured 10 selections, and climbed as high as No. 84 on the chart. This became the first Bad Company album to chart in 12 years. In March 2012 it was announced that Bad Company would be performing a short run of European festival dates beginning June 9 at the Sweden Rock Festival in Sölvesborg. This would mark the first time in 37 years the band has performed in the European continent. Outside the UK however, It was announced in May that the German festival dates were cancelled but that the Sweden Rock Festival show was still on. In March 2013, Bad Company and Lynyrd Skynyrd announced a joint 40th anniversary tour commemorating the 40th anniversary of Skynyrd's first album release and Bad Company's formation. Todd Ronning, from Rodgers' solo band, took over bass at this point, playing alongside second guitarist Howard Lees, who was celebrating his 5th year with the band. On June 10, 2013, Bad Company appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, kicking off their commemorative tour to enthusiastic crowds from coast to coast throughout the United States and Canada. In 2014, Bad Company once again announced a joint summer tour with Lynyrd Skynyrd. Personnel, timeline. Discography. Bad Company, Straight Shooter, Run with the Pack, Burnin Sky, Desolation Angels, Rough Diamonds, Fame and Fortune, Dangerous Age, Holy Water, Here Comes Trouble, Company of Strangers, Stories Told and Untold. References. External links, official site, Simon Kirke official website, official Paul Rodgers site, Mick Ralph's official webpage, Brian Howe official website, http://www.roberthart.u/Robert Hart's official website. Concert review.